It took 6 months at the rehabilitation centre where I was a resident on the outskirts of Brisbane before I realised um, why my life was the way it was. And it occurred after a tremendous amount of pressure regarding confrontation on a day-to-day basis about my behaviours and attitudes and how I was conducting myself in this therapeutic community. And after the outburst, the emotional upheaval that I went into, I broke down and I cried and cried and I cried for about 4 hours. And I came out of that. And when I came out of that, I, I felt really light on my feet. It was like the emotions had come out, and there was this big, like a big coat that had just fallen off my shoulders, and I felt really light. And yeah, I kind of compared it to maybe like a ballerina on her toes at that stage. And as far as being, light and agile is concerned, I was always really tensed and angry and bitter and resentful and, yeah, annoyed at the world and critical and, yeah, a lot of other emotions amongst that. And when I felt these relieving emotions from eventually after years and years and years of pent up emotion that I didn't even realise that was pent up. Um, I said to one of the residents, I said, I feel really good. And the resident said, "How do you feel?" I said, "Really light and really at ease, and I feel really at peace." And he said, "That's understandable, Dean." And then he made me aware. He said, "Welcome to vulnerability." And my response was, if this is vulnerability, I never want to leave it. It was such a beautiful, comfortable, relaxed feeling. Um, and, surround that vulnerability with the realization that I got in that moment after that outburst. That I was responsible for every action that I had done in my life. I was accountable for all of it. It had nothing to do with everything else I was blaming. And oh boy, didn't I find a lot to blame. Oh my God. It just went on and on and on and on and on. But not once did I turn that camera around and focus that on myself. I think it wasn't time. I think any kind of change in one's life has to be the right time at the right place and at the perfect moment. It doesn't matter how much I believe that somebody wants something in a life. If that moment isn't the right time for that person to experience that, that's not going to happen. But I do highly recommend that you ask the question if you have arrived at somewhere in your life that you're not happy with, and you can ask the question, why are you the way you are? And hopefully you'll be able to take stock of that and and work out a way to deal with that by not blaming other people and circumstances that I believe we all create. Every action has a reaction, and we make them on a day-to-day basis, and the result of that is our life as it is. But we can change that also. We do possess that power to change that by number one, if you're ready to acknowledge that, and number two, work out a way to do something different to manage how you feel. I grabbed onto feeling charts in that rehabilitation, which was recommended to all the residents to help them say, in situations, I feel hurt, or I feel scared, or I feel vulnerable, or I feel insecure, or I feel inadequate, or I feel angry, or I feel frustrated, or I feel happy, or I feel sad, I feel uncertain, I feel joy. There's a lot of feeling charts, and they're on the net. If somebody is motivated to make a difference, hopefully, they'll search like me and other people, that want things in their lives and want changes. Search and you'll find that's a certainty. But yeah, coming back to the outbursts and the upheaval, it was only out of upheaval that I found ways to fix it by I call it by the grace of God. But I'm definitely not one to lean on that wholly and solely as the whole catalyst to stop me from making the effort to create and to do my job here on earth. I heard a parable. God only helps those who help themselves, and taking responsibility for yourselves and your thoughts and your behaviours and your actions. I think that's a great place to start in helping yourself. So before I went to the rehab, I had 120 charges. I just finished over 3 years in Boggo Road in Brisbane, and these charges were going in and out of the Supreme and District Court. There was a jurisdiction problem. The DPP didn't know where the charges should be heard, and that sentence had expired, and that's how I ended up at the rehab. I got bail to go to that rehab because I didn't have any money or surety to try and get bail where I could be free. And no court in this land, I was told by the jail solicitor that done the application for me, was going to give me bail on my own undertaking based on all the times I failed to appear that he saw on my criminal history when he asked for it before he done the bail application. So that's how I landed in the rehab, but I didn't land in rehab to change. I had no intentions of changing. My thought process and my belief system at that point and stage was it was everybody else's fault why I was the way I was in my life. And it was everybody else's fault why I was living the life I was living. And boy, what a great wake-up call to realise that it wasn't. So I still had these charges to go to court for, and after 6 months of the rehab, and I had made the changes consciously that was it. I was going to keep working on all these behaviours and attitudes that had been ingrained within my soul for 26 years, from conditioning and what I went through, and all of my own doing, of course. other than coming into the world and going through the family unit that I went through, there needs, I think, some responsibility. Parents need to take when parenting children. So I go back to court. I finally get a date, and I go back to court. And my barrister, I spoke to him prior in his chambers going into court that morning in Brisbane in Australia. And we spoke for about 2 hours, and he was absolutely convinced that I had changed. He told me in no uncertain terms that he had spoken to thousands of people that he had represented over the years, and my story seemed to be the most sincere, probably because it was true. And when he got in the court, based on where his heart was, he was just on fire. You know, he was up there at the bench firing like a bloody submachine gun at the judge and the prosecutor, and telling them all why I shouldn't go back to prison. And the judge pulled him up halfway through the sentencing. And he said, "Surely, sir, you are not asking for a non-custodial sentence for this man?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And the judge said, "Well, he's not going to get that. The question arises, if he has changed, he'll realise now that there is responsibilities for his actions in society, and he will go away and accept the consequences of his behaviour, and then he will come back out and continue on." Fair call. So he's given me 3 years, but he gave me about a year recommendation for parole. And so I was back down in the dungeon in the gallows under the Supreme Court in Brisbane, and I was really upset, and I was shattered. I wasn't that same person. I'd just come out of an environment where everybody talked about their feelings, and I was comfortable. I was getting more comfortable with intimacy and closeness, and sharing my soul, and cuddling people, and trying to accept love. And receive love, which I was making progress. I was definitely making progress with it, and it just felt a lot better through the effort and through having enough of my past life. So off I am in the meat wagon to a prison called Sir David Longlins. And I get processed, and I end up in a unit there, and it wasn't nice. It didn't feel right. It felt the same as when I arrived at Logan House, the rehab. I hated it. I didn't like the feeling of it. But it's interesting. It took a whole circle, where now I'm back in the environment that I was really used to, and I shined in these environments, and now I'm not liking this lifestyle, which was a good thing. And I remember I got a phone call, and I rang the rehab, and I really had to contain myself from not crying. I was really emotional. But I didn't want to. I'm in a maximum security jail, so I don't want to show people I'm breaking down and crying. But I go to my cell, and I cried myself to sleep, and I felt good after it. And the next day, I seeked assistance from programs and counsellors and anybody that would listen to me, from a professional point of view. And there was services in there where, chaplains and counsellors and psychologists where I could use, and I did use, where I went and spoke to those people. And I used to talk about my feelings but yeah, the prisoners that I knew, a lot of them were still in the system, and I knew the way. I was telling them, I was telling them about dealing with anger and dealing with their feelings and being honest and don't steal, and they're kind of looking at me, and they're going, "What is wrong with you, Bluey? Are you okay?" And some of them would put like their hands on my forehead and go, "You got a fever there, Blue. Oh, you're a bit sick. I think you want to go up to the medical. You're hot, mate." And I go, "I'm all right." And they go, "Come on, Blue. You're not going up for bail now, or your parole isn't due yet, so you don't have to pretend to get a good report for your parole. You can come back to us now. We're getting lonely without you, Blue. We want the old Blue back." I said, "The old Blue's dead. He's in the coffin, and I've put the nail in it." In all my God-given days in that environment, all the heroin I was offered when I was knocking it back, "Come on, Blue, have a shot." "No, I'm all right." I'd never been offered so much heroin in my friggin' life. Oh my God, it was just, and I used to laugh at it. And they were calling me the compound counsellor because I was trying to convert them all, and I found it funny. But it was testing because of, the peers. I could have easily succumbed to the peer pressure of reverting back and using it. And I actually did have a shot in there, and it was my last shot of heroin. But that's in my book, All the W's King Hit book, if anybody wants to have a read of the whole story of it. But yeah, challenges that we face, that was a challenge. But, that set me up for the things to come. I realised that I could get through that, and that was probably the first decent challenge that I had when I turned my life around, and I stuck staunch within my soul, and I stayed committed to the process. Again, because I was sick of that life. I was done, and I knew if I keep with this newfound attitude of not blaming people and dealing with my feelings, I just knew I was never going to go back to jail, and that was enough for me. I'd got honest. I'd got honest with my thoughts and my feelings, and my internal dialogue. Well, it was a process, and it still is today. It hasn't changed. After over 30 years, I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing in that rehab, talking about my feelings, taking risks, being honest to what I believe is honest. Like everybody's honesty is completely different. My definition of honesty is have the confidence to talk about how I'm feeling, and having the courage to keep going with it, irrespectively of what people think of me. It's got nothing to do with other people, and I've been able to do that, and I've capitalised on that too. It's been like you know, climbing up to Mount Everest. I'm not at the top yet, but I'm definitely beyond base camp these days. So, and I'm also writing movies at the moment. That's fun. I'm really enjoying that, and it's all coming together really good. And so, you know, watch this space. You know, Netflix, Stan, miniseries. Here comes King Hit. Yeah, it's exciting and it's fun, and I love it. And and when I got out, I did go back to that rehab. I'll let you have that on my own accord. And I did finish the program. I did get to level 4 and I graduated. And, you know, it was only, you know, 0.3% that got through that program. It was based on the WHO's program in New South Wales. And if anybody knows about that program, it's a tough program back in the day. So it wasn't for the faint-hearted, nor is being an addict or struggling in life in general. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's yeah, it's tough. It's a tough life, but there is valves, and and hopefully, if people are in some upheaval and struggle, there is valves that can be found, and I found my valve, and hopefully you can find yours. So I put this on YouTube. So if you see it where it's not on YouTube, um, which is Dean King, I haven't got the link on this, but yeah, that's where you can find me. King Hit. So yeah, if you like it, yeah, don't be shy. Give me a like. But yeah, if you want to leave a comment, I also appreciate feedback. It just helps to fine tune or yeah, any communication's good communication. And yeah, take care, and there's hope with effort, and sometimes that effort comes in the way you don't really think it's going to come, or your motives aren't the reason why. You realise that what you started out having a purpose or a motive to do can flip you around and change on your head and take you into another direction. That's if you're open to it, and that's if you've come to a point where you've had enough of not a nice life. God bless. Take care.